right, hi everyone. This is Filecoin Core Devs meeting number 74. In most places, today is Thursday, the 5th of September. Lucky is off on some PTO that was suddenly scheduled, so I have covered for him today, but he will be returning to host next month's meeting. Today on the agenda, I'm actually going to give some updates on FIP1v2, which is our Filecoin governance reform effort. Steb is going to walk us through some updates on F3, Filecoin fast finality. We're hopefully going to get an update from Micers on FIP94 and also by Orion on NV24. We'll see if they're able to join us, and if not, we will be able to follow up offline. Hey, Long or Lauren, anything else that you guys want to add to the agenda today?
Nothing too much. Probably just F3 readiness for Forest. We're ready to participate in whatever testing you guys are doing.
Cool. Always great to hear. We can pause on that until we get to the F3 updates and see if Steph has any questions or if you want to dig into any of the specifics of testing. But otherwise, we should have plenty of time today if anything else comes up. So that being said, I have just returned from extended personal leave. So it's, first of all, great to be back. But I wanted to quickly touch on, at the highest possible level, what's going on with some of our proposed governance reforms. As a reminder, FIP1 structures the FIP process, and this is usually what we mean when we refer to Filecoin governance. FIP1v2 is what we're calling the PR against FIP1. And this is sort of a policy that proposes some changes to the way we do governance in order to better support the Filecoin community. Key changes of this include hard consensus for complex, controversial proposals, specifically related to governance and crypto economics, and suggests a suite of new tools and sort of community functions and structures to help support better oversight, more transparency, and just a more efficacious technical process overall. These proposed changes, I want to be very clear, are subject to the same sort of FIP standards as any other FIP proposal. So nothing is going to be forced. Core devs will still need to do a final sign-off. But the process that we've been undertaking is we, opened this PR with all initial ideas and have spent the following 8 months doing all of the technical and community management work necessary to prepare all of the documentation to support that policy change. So the very last thing that we will do is finalize the PR with all of the requested changes that everyone has made so far, any final updates, linking out to all documentation, all associated code repos, etc., and then going through with the final in-depth presentation to core devs and the community last call process. That being said, again, we opened the PR at the end of October 2023, so it's been almost a year. And in that time, all of our back-end technical work has now been completed. This includes all auditing and a lot of the community management work that we've also had to do. At various times, we've had different timelines suggested or projected out different components of this. We've tried different methods for incorporating different types of community feedback, core dev feedback, but there are so many component pieces to this that this has proven to be very difficult. So what we're saying for next steps right now, especially since I'm just coming back, and we're working to begin a reanimated effort to begin pushing on this again, is we're looking to begin rolling out a 90-day public testing period of on-chain voting tooling on mainnet in particular. Right now I'm working on the actual proposal for this, so there's no public information about this quite yet. We're going to begin pushing all core documentation, which has mostly been written, to Filecoin docs. This is a huge slate of information that we've worked on, and this is going to start on September 13th. And then finalization of FIP1 proposed text changes, which I'm not putting a date on yet because, again, it depends on how some of these testing policies go, this extent of code changes that we need to make, depending on, once again, feedback that we get. And also any asks from core devs as we, again, get into that finalization of the policy itself. As always, we have a community governance call once a month. The next one is next week. So if you want to really get into the weeds on some of these components, or if you've been kind of checked out or you've heard about this but don't really know what's going on and want to just ask at a really high level, come next week, ask your questions. All of these meetings are recorded, so we're happy to have a conversation and sort of point you in the right direction. There's also a PhilGov channel, which is different from PhilFips. This is here so you can ask async questions if the meeting time doesn't work for you. Link out to things, let us know what you need. And I also have office hours. These are linked in this slide deck, and they've always been linked in the PhilFips channel in the information in the header. You're welcome to book time at any time if you want to talk one-on-one, ask questions, etc. That being said, I was hoping we could have a discussion, though we don't have a ton of people who are able to join today. There are two big questions that I have, again, sort of coming back into work full time. And the first one is about information. I've gotten feedback at different points from different folks that they don't know what's going on. They don't know what's needed to support this process. They have expectations around how certain things should be developed, but they don't know where to put that information. What I would like to know, if anyone on this call has input, is what information about sort of governance reform do you feel you need, and how can we best communicate that? There have been a lot of changes in the Filecoin ecosystem over the past couple of months, and Slack and Zoom may no longer be effective. That's sort of the signal that I'm receiving from some of the feedback I've gotten, but I don't know how people want this communicated. So please let me know if you have opinions. And is there a particular way in which folks want to be involved or feel that they should be involved but are unable to do so? This kind of feedback is super helpful. And as always, some reminders that are a little particular to governance, but not exclusively. Our team is extremely resource limited. I am the only person working on this, and it's not, governance is my full-time job, but FIP 1v2 is not. So this is my biggest priority, but not my only one. No changes, again, to any part of Filecoin governance will be finalized without in-depth core dev review. It's just that all of the development work that needs to happen has to come first before we can finalize documentation for review. That's the phase we're heading into. And the last one is that governance also has pretty significant legal and network security ramifications. And so we try to be as communicative as possible, which has actually slowed down this process quite a bit. But we can't be fully open and collaborative all the time. And striking a balance that feels appropriate for core devs in particular is a challenging but important goal. So those are key updates for now, but again, happy to have a discussion or answer any specific questions or take feedback if anyone has it.
On the communication, like, excuse me, I haven't looked at the discussion in a long time. It's a very long discussion. I think some summary on the things that would be subject to like on-chain voting versus the other pathways.
Yeah,
kind of would be helpful, like a summary of where we're landing there.
Yeah. I had a conversation yesterday actually about, ahead of doing any public testing, that we're going to need to sort of reintroduce sort of these key concepts because there's a lot there. Is there sort of a way of writing this up? Like we can circulate a Google Doc. I can make like a really polished PDF. Is there anything that jumps out to you as like particularly useful, or, are folks organizing in Telegram groups and Signal groups? Is Slack still the best place? Totally agree that giving an update and like a summary is really useful. But I think the challenge that I'm personally having is knowing where to reach people in a way that's effective for them.
Personally, I think Slack is fine. I don't know if you posted it in a Telegram as well, but like I'm just like imagining some sort of table organizing the information. Like
Sure.
you could always
Right.
say like go see the discussion for details, but this is like a high level view.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else? Oops. All right. Then I don't want to put anyone on the spot. And again, I've linked out to my personal office hours. So if you want to discuss any of this one-on-one, I'm more than happy to do that. We should have plenty of time today too. So if any other questions or thoughts come up that you want to share, we should have time at the end. But if not, we can jump into STEB's F3 updates. Yep. Steb, are you
Yep.
Great.
Okay, so this is a quick update on the F3 testing. We've now tested with around 400-ish nodes. We'd like to test with more, but we needed to test an upgraded version because the original version we shipped with the network upgrade had some significant issues that prevented testing from making any progress. So far, we fixed some issues with convergence. Basically, the F3 network was not like coming to consensus very well. We had like 4 different bugs, and we're still fixing some of them. We've improved propagation of some messages to ensure that that everyone basically sees all the messages in the network and again can come to consensus faster. Moving forward, we are working on reducing CPU utilization by a significant amount. Working on some crash safety, so in case people reboot their nodes or something crashes, we're not going to like end up making 2 different decisions, which would be problematic. Also working on just like speeding up the consensus again, and reducing bandwidth. Bandwidth utilization was around 1 megabyte per second. We're hoping to get that down, but we were also testing with a smaller network, and bandwidth utilization grows with the size of the network. So we'd probably scale from 300 nodes to 3,000 nodes, or like 400 nodes, I guess, 3,000 nodes. So we're expecting possibly up to like 10 megabytes per second or even more potentially. But we're still looking at different avenues for improving that. On the other hand, if you notice any CPU utilization from F3, that should go way down. But we've massively optimized that. Yeah, and the final thing is we had some issues where nodes were accidentally double voting because they were HA setups or highly available setups, where basically one miner node be talking to 2 Lotus nodes. And then both Lotus nodes thought they would participate in F3, and they would both double vote for different values, and that caused a bunch of problems. So we're working on fixing that as well. But yeah, that's our current status. We are still hoping to ship the next network upgrade, but we are proposing a slight delay to the network or the MB24 timeline, just because we're not quite ready and sure yet. And we also know that several of the other some of the FIPS that are trying to ship are also not quite ready. Yeah, that's our current status.
Sorry, I was muted. That sounds great. How long, is there anything you wanted to add about Forest's own work, or did you cover it before fully?
Not too much. Basically, we have integrated the Go F3 as a sidecar into Forest, and we are ready to participate in the next round of testing.
Awesome.
And that's all.
Okay.
Cool.
We are still making rapid changes, but I don't think we're making too many changes to the top level interfaces. That a lot of that also depends on if we like try to tackle some more aggressive bandwidth optimizations. We have a few that could potentially reduce bandwidth by like possibly even like 60% or 70%. But unfortunately, they're rather complicated. So we'll sync up together in the implementers call later.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks.
All right. Thanks for the update, Steb.
Actually, one more update. Sorry.
Yeah.
I realize I should note this explicitly. We're planning on switching the signature aggregation scheme. This is how we're getting some of the CPU optimizations, and this might affect Forest. If you're importing Go F3 directly, you're not going to notice this. If you're trying to implement the crypto, like we're still using the same underlying scheme. We're just changing how we're using it slightly. So reach out to me if you're like actually implementing that in Rust, because we're making some optimizations there.
I'm sure. Yeah, I will deliver the message. So we are implementing the Rust library simultaneously, but for now we're using the Go library for
awesome.
the next round of testing.
Yeah, because to give you a short summary, effectively we're still planning on using BDN as our aggregation scheme, but the way BDN is implemented is actually uses this bit field to aggregate different keys. And previously we were not making use of the bit field. We're just setting all bits to 1. We are now actually like making use of that bit field, and sort of like when we aggregate keys, we're enabling some and disabling others, which means we can pre-compute a bunch of stuff at the beginning of every single round. But this might affect your implementation, so just telling you now.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions on F3 for Steb? All right. Well, thanks again, Steb. Next up, we have Mikers, who I think is on the call. Yes.
Yeah, hi. How
Cool.
are you?
Hi.
Cool. Yeah, just wanna sort of introduce myself to the FIP process, I guess. With this mcopy opcode FIP, and to give some background on it, just to start the conversation going, there's a opcode in the EVM that was defined in EIP 5656, and it's sort of like a mem copy, if that's a C function anyone's familiar with, a type of operation, but for the EVM. And starting, as I understand it, in Solidity 8.25, this opcode is compiled in, or used to compile Solidity code. And one example is the ABI decode and ABI encode library function uses mcopy. And so I've been sort of following along and doing my best, and appreciate the help and support from everyone along the way to implement that. Basically to first open a FIP to add support for this, and also there's a PR that I just opened from draft into actual regular PR for the the built-in actors repo, which is where our FEVM is defined. And then there's some testing plan work to do, but things seem to be moving easily, and I'm happy about the process so far. So thanks on that, and sort of just excited to be a part of this more formal process.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any
Thanks.
questions for Mikers? All right. Moving right along then, the next discussion we were going to have today was an update on NV24 that I think Orion was going to deliver, but he is not on the call today. It looks like there is a revision to the timeline. Apologies, but again, I'm just coming back from leave, so I myself am not fully up to date on all of the changes that have happened here yet. But going to keep these revised dates on the screen just for a minute or two so that folks can see them, raise any questions that they might want recorded, and otherwise we can also ask for an async update in the core devs channel.
I was also in a few of these conversations, so I can give some context. Basically, this is about delaying the network upgrade slightly for both F3 and for FIP 94, the mcopy FIP, because neither of them are quite ready. The general plan is to just also break the upgrade into two. So effectively, we'd have the mainnet upgrade on the 20th, and this would be the normal state migration. But then F3 wouldn't actually activate to the 4th. This would be a very, very, very tiny upgrade where it wouldn't migrate the entire state tree, just make one tiny little migration just to turn on F3. The goal of having, or the idea of, the reason we were trying to make these separate is that gives us some time where the final version of F3 is running on mainnet, and we can still run a few more tests where everyone is definitely running this latest version. And we can make sure that nothing's going to go wrong. And if something looks like it's going to go wrong, we can back out of that second network upgrade. That's why we want to propose this timeline.
Great. Again, Lucky has been in the weeds on sort of helping to coordinate some of the timeline work, and he should be back next week. So he might have some follow-up questions for you as well, but again, we'll coordinate in the thread and also in the core devs channel. But thanks for pinch hitting, Steb.
No problem.
All right, and as promised, this is a shorter meeting today. I think that brings us to the end of all the scheduled discussions that we had. Again, feel free to jump in if anyone has any last questions or discussions they'd like to raise. Otherwise, we will post this meeting recording as always, and continue to chat offline.